Hey there, this is Pastor Tony, and we are currently in a sermon series called Uncommon Courage, about moments in our lives when we need courage. Sometimes this courage means that we are sitting still while God is fighting on our behalf, but rarely does courage mean that there is no movement. There are some things that we are supposed to work on and other things that we are supposed to wait on. The journey of courage is a journey of working and waiting. And so this is a topic of the courage to get moving. This was Pastor Andy's weekend message. And Pastor Andy said one sentence that really spoke to me. That was, I shouldn't expect a miracle from God when he's expecting movement from me. I shouldn't expect miracles from God when he is expecting movement from me. And it was about 8 years ago. There was a family in our church that moved over here to Germany, and they found an apartment, but they were not allowed to move into that apartment until 2 weeks later. And so they were looking for a place to stay. They didn't have the money to stay in a hotel for the whole time. And so I was praying for this family in my living room. And this was a family of 4. They had 2 small children. And while I was praying, God mentioned to me, Tony, you have a living room. In that living room, there is a sofa. 2 people can sleep on that sofa. And you have an extra mattress. 2 people can sleep on that mattress. So you have room for 4 people. So what are you praying for? Why do you pray to me to get a miracle, or that you want me to do something if you can do something yourself? And so I offered this family my living room and they accepted. And they spent 2 weeks in my 2-room apartment. And we became really good friends. And so, as Pastor Andy mentioned, you shouldn't expect a miracle from God if he's expecting movement from you. One verse that I want to read to you is from Joshua 3, 1-5. And it's like this. Early the next morning, Joshua and all the Israelites left Acacia Grove and arrived at the banks of the Jordan River, where they camped before crossing. 3 days later, the Israelite officers went through the camp, giving these instructions to the people. When you see the Levitical priests carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, move out from your positions and follow them. Since you have never traveled this way before, they will guide you. Stay about a half mile behind them. Keep a clear distance between you and the ark. Make sure you don't come any closer. Then Joshua told the people, purify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do great wonders among you. As I already mentioned, courage sometimes means we are sitting still while God is fighting on our behalf. But very often it means that we should work on something, that we should get moving. Movement requires an openness to change and a willingness to commit. Let me say that again. Movement requires an openness to change and a willingness to commit. It's not the size of the step, it's the direction of the step. So here's my question for you. If you keep going the same direction that you're headed, where will you end up? I am thinking about your career. I'm thinking about your relationships. I'm thinking about your path to spiritual maturity. If you keep going in the same direction that you're headed, where will you end up? There are more paths you're walking on. I know that. It's not all career, relationships, and spiritual maturity. There is way more than that. Do you need to go in a new direction? If yes, there is a point of decision. There is a moment when you must make a decision, whether the path you are on is a right way or needs correction. Where are you avoiding commitment? What has God already asked you to do? I believe the moment of decision is now. So ask yourself and share with your group, what path are you walking on? Where you think this is headed and where you need to correct your direction. One thing that Joshua told the people was, purify yourself. There are things that you don't need to take into the future. Before you get moving, you should answer this question. Which direction am I headed? To change a pattern, you must embrace a process. There is always process of change, but it always starts with a point of decision. Changing course, going in a new direction, or learning new habits is not easy. If it would be, you would have done it already. So have patience and keep on going in the right direction. At Saddleback, we call it crawl, walk, and run. Start to crawl in the right direction. Don't start with running and burn out. Start with crawling, then with walking, and then with running in the right direction. You are most alive when you are moving forward into the future that God has for you. So here are some key questions for today. Which direction am I headed? Where are you avoiding commitment? And what has God already asked you to do? You can find some more questions in the discussion guide. You can see a link to the discussion guide in the video description. And if you went through this topic of the courage to get moving, you might feel that you want to start something. You might feel that there is something that God asks you to do, or something that God asks you to go, that you want to act on right now. So here are a couple of steps that you can do. The first thing you can do is to serve other people. You can do that in your small group. We believe in shared responsibility when it comes to small group. We don't want the host of the small group to do it all, but we believe that everyone in your small group should have a certain role, should have a certain task to do. That could mean that there is someone of you writing down the prayer requests and following up with people to ask for praise reports. Maybe there is someone else who chooses who is just a worship kind of guy. And this is a person who chooses worship songs that you will start your meetings with, or he's in charge of other worship expressions. Maybe there's someone of you who just loves fellowship. Maybe that's the person that is in charge of food. There's maybe someone in your group just has a heart for outreach and neighborhood projects. So maybe that is the person you want to put in charge of your outreach projects in your neighborhood. So you can serve in your small group. You can serve the people in your small group. You can also serve at church. There is something coming up, I mentioned that last week, and that is the last October weekend. On October 30th, we will have a very special dinner service. We call it a block party dinner service because we want to invite the people of our neighborhood. And we will have a lot of food, we will have surprises, and we will of course have worship and a short sermon. The main focus of that event is to have fellowship with other people, to have fellowship with people in our neighborhood, to get to know each other. And we ask ourselves, how can we invite our neighbors? And we didn't just want to print out flyers and give them out in the neighborhood, but we wanted to actively go out. And we will do that on Saturday, October 29th. This is our neighborhood outreach day. There are several projects that we will do and that you can be part of. There is a kids' fun event at Herzbergplatz where families of ours can meet families of the neighborhood and just have fun together. There is a group of people that will go out and collect garbage in the neighborhood, and while they do that, talk to people on the street. There is a group that goes to homeless people in our neighborhood, giving them food and drinks, but especially give them a moment of compassion and respect by just sitting down and talk to them. There will be a project of subway worship where parts of our worship band will sing worship music in the subway station of Neukölln, while others give out flyers to invite people to come to our dinner service on October 30th. So there are a couple of ways to get involved as a small group, but also individually. There is a link in the video description where you can find more details and sign up to serve on this very special weekend. Maybe for one of you in your small group, baptism is the next step. Maybe you were waiting for the courage to take that important step of publicly announcing your faith in Jesus. If baptism is your next step, reach out to me. Write an email to tony@saddleback.de, fill out an online connection card, send me a WhatsApp, you will find a way, and we will have a conversation about baptism. And one more thing. Maybe your next step means to take one or all of our classes. New class dates will come soon. Class 101 is about becoming part of our Saddleback family, becoming a member of our church. This is where you learn about our history, our beliefs, our story, about our values and our strategy. Class 201 is about learning healthy habits to grow in your spiritual maturity. Class 301 is about discovering your shape. How did God shape you, and how can you use that to be a blessing to other people? And class 401 is about mission. It's about the global peace plan from Saddleback. What do we believe about mission? And what can you do individually, especially when sharing your testimony with other people? So I want to invite you to take part in our classes. As I mentioned, new class dates will come out very soon. Check out our event calendar on our website. And with that being said, let me pray for you. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for everyone that's in a small group of Saddleback and that is going through this topic of uncommon courage. Today, we talked about the courage to get moving. We know that very often we are not very obedient. You're calling us to be something as someone. You're calling us to do something. You're calling us to go somewhere. And we just seem to wait for you to do everything when you expect us to move. God, we ask for your spirit. We ask for your courage to be inside of us so that we will act on your commands, so that we will act on what you put into our hearts, so that we will start working on ourselves and become more spiritually mature, so that we will go out and do something, share the gospel, serve other people, showing love in action. Maybe for some of us it means to go somewhere, and we pray that you give us the courage to finally take the right step, the first step in the right direction. God, I ask you to bless everyone in our small groups, to give them the courage to open up to their group about what's going on in their life, about your callings for their life, about what they heard from you, what you want them to do. God, we are so grateful that we can be your faithful servants, and we pray all of this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of this series, Uncommon Courage. I'm looking forward to next week. Bye.